Picture yourself walking along a Scottish lard at twilight. The water is perfectly still. The air smells of heather and rain. And then you see it. A horse. The most beautiful horse you've ever seen. It stands at the water's edge, watching you, waiting. And every instinct in your body says touch it. But if you do, you'll never let go. The Kelpie doesn't just drown its victims. It drags them beneath the surface, where something far worse awaits. This isn't a spirit that warns. This isn't a creature of mercy. This is Scotland's most dangerous shapeshifter, and it's been hunting for over 1,000 years. Tonight, we journey to the lochs and rivers of Scotland, where the boundary between beauty and terror has always been dangerously thin. This is the story of the Kelpie, the water horse, the shapeshifter that has claimed more lives than Scotland's wildest storms. But this story is more than folklore. It's a warning that has echoed through Scottish culture for centuries. A warning about the places we shouldn't go, the things we shouldn't trust, and the price of ignoring both. To understand the Kelpie, we must travel back to ancient Scotland, long before Christianity reached these shores. Water in Celtic belief was never just water. It was a boundary, a threshold between our world and the other world, between the living and the dead, between what we know and what we fear. Every loch, every river, every spring held its own spirit. Some were benevolent. They provided fish, fresh water, safe passage. But others demanded tribute, respect, sacrifice. The Kelpie was one of these, a shapeshifter, a trickster, a predator. Its true form, the legends say, was that of a water horse, sleek, powerful, irresistibly beautiful. But it could take other shapes. An old man, a beautiful woman, sometimes even a child crying by the water's edge. Whatever form would lure its victim closest. The word Kelpie itself comes from the Scottish Gaelic. Some scholars trace it to Kelpie, meaning heifer or colt. Others believe it's older still, a name that predates written language. What we know for certain is this: by the medieval period, every region of Scotland had its own Kelpie stories. The Highlands knew the Etchish an even more dangerous variant that lived in the sea and carried riders straight to the ocean floor. The Lowlands spoke of Kelpies that could stretch their backs to accommodate an entire group of children. All of them, they said, would be carried into the water together. None would escape. The year was 1746. Near the village of Aberfoyle, a young man named Graham was walking home from the market. It was late autumn. The sun set early. The mist rose from the loch like smoke. And there, by the water's edge, stood a horse, black as midnight, saddled and bridled as if waiting for a rider. Graham had heard the stories. Every child in Scotland heard the stories. But this horse looked real, solid, normal. And Graham was tired. The walk home was long. His feet ached. So he approached, slowly at first. The horse didn't move. It simply watched him with dark, intelligent eyes. Graham reached out. His fingers touched the horse's neck, and his hand stuck fast. He tried to pull away. He couldn't. His hand was fused to the creature's skin as if by glue, as if the horse itself had become adhesive. The horse turned its head, and Graham saw its eyes change, from brown to pale green, glowing. And then it moved. Not toward the road, toward the loch. Graham screamed. He dug his heels into the ground. He grabbed at branches, rocks, anything. But the Kelpie was impossibly strong. With every step, it dragged him closer to the water, closer to the dark, cold depths. At the water's edge, Graham did the only thing he could think of. He reached into his belt, found his knife, and cut off his own hand. The Kelpie plunged into the loch, taking Graham's severed hand with it, and disappeared beneath the surface. Graham survived, but he carried the scar for the rest of his life. And every year until he died, he stood by that loch and warned travellers never touch the beautiful horse. Never trust the still water. You might think the Kelpie is just a story, a relic of a superstitious past. But in Scotland, the warnings haven't stopped. In 1994, a hiker named Sarah MacDougall was walking near Loch Ness, not far from the famous castle ruins. It was summer. The water was calm, and there, on the shore, stood a horse. No saddle this time, no bridle, just a beautiful grey horse grazing peacefully. Sarah loved horses. She'd ridden since childhood, and this one seemed friendly, gentle. She walked closer. The horse raised its head, looked directly at her. And Sarah felt it. A pulling sensation, not physical, psychological. An overwhelming urge to touch it, to mount it, to ride. But something else rose up in her memory. A story her grandmother had told her, about the water horses, about the Kelpies, about how they called to you, how they made you want to come closer. Sarah stepped back. The horse watched her, and for just a moment she swears its eyes flashed green. Then it turned, walked calmly into the loch, and vanished beneath the water without a ripple. When Sarah reported this to local historians, they weren't surprised. They told her that sightings happen every few years. Always the same pattern, always near water, always a beautiful horse that shouldn't be there. And always the people who trust their instincts and walk away survive. So what is the Kelpie? Really? On the surface, it's a cautionary tale. A warning to keep children away from dangerous water. Scotland's laws are deep and cold. Drowning was common, especially in the Highlands. But the Kelpie is more than that. It's a story about trust. About how the most dangerous things often wear the most beautiful disguises. The Kelpie doesn't appear as a monster. It appears as salvation, as convenience, as something too good to refuse. A free horse when you're tired, a helping hand when you're lost, a beautiful distraction when you're lonely. And that's what makes it terrifying. Not what it looks like, but what it promises. In Scottish psychology, the Kelpie represents the danger of ignoring warning signs, of trusting appearances, of believing that something is safe simply because it's beautiful. Every culture has these stories. The siren on the rocks, the woman in white by the road, the stranger offering candy. But Scotland's Kelpie adds something unique, the adhesive touch. The moment you realize you can't let go, that you've already committed to something you don't understand. How often do we do that? Touch something we shouldn't. Trust someone we don't know. Make a choice before we fully understand the consequences. And how often do we find ourselves stuck, unable to pull away? The Kelpies are still there, in the laws and rivers of Scotland, waiting by the water's edge. Maybe they're real, supernatural shapeshifters from the other world. Or maybe there's something else, a psychological warning, an instinct, the part of our brain that knows when something is too good to be true. Either way, the lesson remains, not everything beautiful is safe. Not everything that calls to you deserves your trust. And sometimes the best decision you can make is to walk away. If you enjoyed this journey into Scottish folklore, explore dark legends from around the world. Next time, we'll visit another water spirit with a different warning. Until then, stay curious, stay safe. And if you see a beautiful horse by still water, keep walking